Brands face serious risks from deceptive agency pitches as something called pitch maxing now undermines trust. So what steps can brands now take to identify genuine agency capabilities? Also coming up, are brands deliberately courting controversy to now grab attention, spark conversation and drive sales? Or is a strategy becoming a dangerous gamble that could backfire? Let's bring in Darren Woolley from Trinity P3. He's in Sydney. Let's talk first about pitch maxing. How has it changed agency selection? What does it all mean?
Well, Aaron, what we're seeing is that the marketplace is already complex. You know, there are so many different specialist agencies. There's been so much consolidation amongst the holding companies, with many of the most famous agency brands disappearing. And now marketers are having to navigate a world where AI has enabled agencies to make all sorts of promises that they may not actually be able to keep. And so, you know, it's becoming an incredibly dangerous place for marketers who traditionally would run their own pitches.
What's the difference between pitch maxing and someone using AI to put a pitch together?
Well, pitch maxing is actually where you say to a client, we will be able to, say, do your work for 70% less than most other agencies because AI has automated much of the work, or we can buy media for you at a much cheaper price because our AI allows us to, you know, so all of this is based around this story of AI being able to improve not only productivity, which has been a big focus, but performance as well. And for a lot of marketers, it's very hard to evaluate or even determine whether this is just an empty promise to get their attention and their business, or the agency can actually do it.
Are brands aware of pitch maxing risks, do you think?
I think they must be aware, but they're turning a blind eye to it because many of these promises, these pitch maxed promises, are actually seem to be too good to be true, and they don't want to miss out. Who wouldn't want media at half the price you're paying now, or have your production done at a fraction of the price you've traditionally paid? For marketers that are often thinking that you know, they don't have enough budget to do all the things they want to do, this is a very lucrative and attractive promise that's coming from the agencies. And of course, we've got procurement as well, who are often incentivized to lower the price. So they're also very attracted by this promise of lower prices. The question is, what happens if you actually buy these promises and then they're not delivered during the contract?
Is there a certain irony here that brands who sometimes get accused of misleading customers with fantastic ads are themselves finding themselves being stuck here?
Well, look, I think the danger is, unlike an ad which is overpromised and underdelivered, you know, there are mechanisms to do this. But what we're seeing is marketers are often getting lost in the pitch process with all these amazing offers being put to them. We've seen recently pitches start, then stop, then start again with new agencies. We've seen clients appoint an agency and then go out to market, not change agencies, but appoint an additional agency, perhaps to make up for the underperformance of the incumbent. But none of this is ever public. It's usually protected under NDAs and confidentiality agreements. So I think there is a connection here that you could draw, but in actual fact, it happens behind closed doors, and most of the shame and embarrassment is hidden.
Is the word desperate often overused in situations like this?
I think the marketplace is incredibly desperate for both marketers and for agencies and media owners, as we've often discussed. And that's because economically there are incredible headwinds. You know, the interest rate rises that we've gone through in the last few years, the cost of living, the inflation that those were meant to address, and also the disruption that's being caused by AI means that all parties here want more for less. And so, you know, someone's going to end up paying. And my fear is that marketers that are misled in the process of selecting a supplier could be the ones that become the big victim here, because they'll be spending money in a poor way.
Do you think that brands are underestimating the consequences of poor choices?
Oh, absolutely. Because it's often hidden. But what we're actually seeing is, and we're hearing more and more, and this is not just an Australian phenomenon, we're seeing and hearing this around the world. Pitches are taking longer to do because marketers are finding it more and more challenging to work through these promises. We're seeing, as I said, pitches stopping and starting, and we're seeing lots of agency churn more than ever. You know, our State of the Pitch report that we do every year has shown that nothing's improving. And in fact, we're in market now with another survey, and I think we'll probably see that things are worse than they've ever been because of pitch maxing.
Yeah, right, let's move on. Brands are leveraging controversy to stand out, risking backlash while boosting visibility and sales. So are brands intentionally courting controversy for visibility? Let's bring in Kyle Sandilands now for his response. I mean, this is surely one of the oldest tricks in the book that has been used for decades, if not centuries, right?
Well, it is, you know, and it's one of the ways of being able to get attention and cut through the clutter. But I think we're also seeing the fact that social media, you know, the metas of the world, have done a great job at polarizing audiences.
Yeah.
And giving, you know, playing one side off the other as a way of getting outrage. And so brands are starting to play with this and have played with this a number of times. You know, Sydney Sweeney with the jeans controversy, but that actually worked in their favour. And we saw...
I was wondering what this overlay was about. I was watching the pictures next to us thinking, what's this got to do with it? But there you go.
Yeah, and their share price actually improved. But then we've seen other brands, and this is really the thing that brands need to be aware of. This can be incredibly potent, or it can be incredibly destructive. We saw Budweiser lose huge market share when they went with a trans presenter for their an influencer, trans influencer, and it outraged their core base audience of Budweiser beer. You know, so they have to be really careful. And we've seen some prestige brands like Balenciaga going into China and actually alienating most of the Chinese community by being almost stereotypical and patronizing in the way they presented the Chinese culture. It's very dangerous. This is a high-risk strategy for any brand. There are some things you can do to minimise that risk, and when it pays off big. But when it goes wrong, Aaron, it goes bad. Very quickly.
I mean, the term is provocative, right? Like, so a lot of brands want to sail on the edge of being provocative, being interesting. I mean, if you look at some of the biggest figures in Australian media, the Sam Newmans, the Eddie Maguires, the Carl Stefanovics, the Kyle Sandilands, they are all always courting controversy and trying to be on the edge of getting attention without getting cancelled. Hasn't quite worked out lately, obviously, for them. Talk to us about what happens when there's a backlash to brand loyalty.
Yeah, and so that's the thing, is that brands need to be really careful. And here's one of the things they need to do, is if you're going to divide an audience, make sure you're not dividing your current customer base. You know, what you want to do is consolidate your customers and bring more in by alienating the people that would never buy your product in the first place, because that's how this mechanism works. And if you're alienating or dividing your own customer base, you're in serious trouble. And I think that's one of the mistakes.
How does it even get that far? I mean, you've probably sat in some of these pitches and meetings where some guru has said, you know what we need to do? Anger the customers. How does it happen?
Well, they don't actually say it that explicitly, and perhaps if they did, it wouldn't happen. You know, I think you're asking about honesty in marketing and advertising, but what they will say is, oh, we need to attract this audience. The way to do it is take this position, without anyone actually thinking about, well, what will our existing customer base think of that? In the case of Balenciaga, if you're going into China, be very careful culturally that you don't actually alienate all of the people that you're actually trying to appeal to. You know, and Balenciaga also had another campaign where they showed children in BDSM type clothing. You know, and
That's going to go down well.
Yeah, what possesses people to do this? Because they're putting being provocative first, without actually thinking about their audiences. And the most important thing any marketer will tell you is understand your customer base intimately, understand exactly what the buttons are, and make sure you don't alienate them. Sure, alienate the people that are never going to buy you and get that controversy. the media will eat it up, but
Yeah.
don't do it to your customers.
Darren, Woolley, appreciate your insights as always. Let's be more provocative next time.
Thanks, Aaron.